What is going on, Thunder Blunder subscribers? My name is Phozon, and as you can see, Blunder is doing a 500 subs narration spree. He passed me this match, and he asked me to narrate for him, but before we even get into that, Blunder, congrats on 500. Definitely well earned. As you guys can see from here, it is an RU match, and just looking at his opponent's team real quick, couple big threats. Definitely going to be Buffon and Archeops, because those things can just punch holes through teams. But anyways, let's get right into the match right now. His opponent is going to lead off with Excelgor, as Blunder is going to lead off with an Uxie. As his opponent is just going to go straight for the Bug Buzz first turn. I guess he thought maybe he could 2-hit KO Uxie, but as we can see here, especially after leftovers, that's not going to be the case. As Blunder just does go for the T-Wave to slow that thing down. And this turn here, they're both going to get up their hazards accordingly, Spikes and Stealth Rocks. As this turn, Blunder is going to U-turn out. He is going to U-turn out into his Quillfish. I guess he thought because this Excelgor was paralyzed, this would be an appropriate time to come in instead of Spikes, Toxic Spikes, whatever his Quillfish happens to be carrying. But his opponent is going to end up going for the final Gambit here, and that is actually going to bring his Quillfish down to a point where it will not be able to survive the Spike switch in, even after leftovers. And it's really going to hurt here. So that first layer of Spikes already coming into play here, because Blunder definitely could have benefited from this Quillfish had it been around a lot longer. But his opponent is going to bring in the Archeops here, as Blunder does bring in the Uxie. He is just going to U-turn straight out of there, and he's going to U-turn out into his Steelix, knowing that Uxie cannot really touch Steelix unless it is a more offensive variant, but because we've seen T-Wave and Stealth Rocks, I'm assuming this is the supportive set that Blunder is running. So here, knowing he cannot do anything, Blunder's just going to switch out into his Gallade here, as opponent is going to set up Stealth Rocks this turn. And now here, the Drain Punch or the Close Combat is pretty obvious, so predicting the Rotom switch in, Blunder is just going to go straight for the sub, which was a good move on his behalf, because Rotom can always be a pain, especially if this Rotom does end up being a sort of substituting variant with Pain Split. But here, after seeing leftovers, sub, and Shadow Sneak, I'm assuming Blunder is running a sub bulk up Gallade, and because it only runs Shadow Sneak and Drain Punch, Shadow Sneak is all he has to go for on this thing. So he's just going to go for a Shadow Sneak and break the Rotom sub this turn. As Rotom's going to go for the T-Bolt to break Gallade sub this turn. So we got substitutes breaking everywhere right now. As this turn, Blunder is just going to go for another Shadow Sneak to finish off that Rotom, which is always a good thing, because like I said before, if that was a Pain Split variant, that could be really annoying to take down, just because Rotom does have a very good dual stab in the RU tier. But here, he is going to go right out into his Archeops, as Blunder is going to make a switch out into his Quillfish as a Death Fodder, just to see what this thing wants to do. And now, just judging by the way he's been playing this Archeops, I'm guessing this is most likely a Choice Scarf variant. So Blunder is going to bring in his Clefable here, knowing he can take at least one Earthquake from Archeops not in Defeatist range, there we go, and go for a Seismic Toss to put it in Defeatist range. And here, as we're going to see, he can definitely take 2 Earthquakes from the range of HP his Clefable's at, so he's just going to go for a Wish, knowing next turn he can finish off the Archeops with a Seismic Toss and get his HP back up to full with the Wish, as his opponent is just going to leave in this Archeops here as a fodder, because, again, it will die upon Stealth Rock switch in, and an Archeops in Defeatist range is just kind of useless at that point, unless you got Roost. But Blunder's now back up to around 80%, 75%, give or take. As his opponent does bring in his Buffalon, he is going to go right out into his Uxie, as his opponent does end up going right for the head charge. And as we're going to see here, there's no Life Orb recoil, there's no lefties gain, so I think it's safe to assume that this Buffalon is most likely a Choice Banded set, and that's why Blunder brings in his Rotom here. But he makes a very excellent play right here. He's going to double out into his Gallade, predicting the Steelix switching, just knowing that his opponent will most likely bring it in, knowing that Rotom cannot touch Steelix. Is what I'm trying to say here. So here, he kind of makes a bit of a foolish play. I don't know if he was predicting something here, but he's going to go right for the bulk up. I don't know why, because Steelix has Titanic defenses, easily could take an unboosted Drain Punch, and he's at sturdy range, so even then he would still be safe, as his opponent is going to go for the Roar to get rid of that thing. He's going to roar him out into his Lilligant, as Blunder is going to switch out here into his Gallade. I guess maybe he was scouting to see if he would bring in Buffalon to find out whether or not it did have the Sap Sipper ability. And because he brings it in here, it's kind of safe to assume that Buffalon it will be running Sap Sipper. But here, I guess he's going to leave in his Gallade as a fodder, knowing that there's nothing on his team that can really switch into a Choice Banded head charge. So here, he is going to bring in his Rotom, And he's going to make yet another good play here. He's going to predict the switch in into the Steelix, and he's going to go right for the Shadow Ball. And as we're going to see here, it's looking maybe to be like a 3-hit KO, 4-hit KO, depending on damage rolls and lefties gain. So here, Blunder is just going to fire off yet another Shadow Ball because it's all he really has to hit the Steelix with, because it is immune to T-Bolt, as he is just going to go right for the Roar, and he's going to roar him out into his Lilligant. As Blunder is going to make kind of a ballsy play here. He is just going to go flat out for the Giga Drain. Had his opponent brought in the Bouffalon here, he would have been up to +2, and that could have definitely started punching holes through Blunder's team. So, again, he just goes for the Giga Drain, takes out the Steelix, as his opponent, I believe, brings in the Piloswine this turn. And here, Blunder kind of makes a blind play, I would go to say. His opponent is going to double out into his Bouffalon, predicting the obvious Giga Drain here, as Blunder is just going to go for that, activating Bouffalon Sap Sipper. So now this thing is at +2, and Bouffalon at +2 is very scary. He is going to bring in his Clefable here to see what he's going to lock himself into, and not only that, but use it as a Death Fodder, knowing he probably does not need it anymore, as his opponent is just going to go straight for the Stone Edge. And here, I guess he went for the sub, most likely predicting the Piloswine switch in, predicting him to go for the T-Bolt to take this thing out, but his opponent does just end up going for the Stone Edge, as next turn Blunder will go for the obvious T-Bolt to take that thing out. And now all he has left is his Piloswine, as that's going to come in. These things always tend to carry Ice Shard, so he's most likely just going to go for an Ice Shard here to finish off that Rotom. And now all Blunder has left is his Lilligant. And here, his opponent does not end up going, I should say, for the Ice Shard, which definitely could have helped, as you're about to see. He definitely could have gotten in some last-ditch effort damage if these next few turns played out the way they did. But Blunder went for the Sleep Powder here. Now he's going to go for a Giga Drain, and that will actually not be able to take out the Piloswine from that range of HP. And this is where him possibly going for the Ice Shard the first turn would have come in handy, because as we're about to see here, maybe depending on recovery gain from leftovers, he might have been able to 2-hit KO Lilligant, but that will not be the case, as Blunder's just going to go for a second Giga Drain and finish off this Piloswine, and that's going to leave the narrow 1-0 victory for Blunder's favor. So yeah, good game, Blunder, good game to your opponent as well. Guys, check out Thunder Blunder, subscribe to his channel, really good stuff, very, very good battler, and that's all from me today, so until then, later.